this meeting, when it comes to reporting, this team doesn't stack up against client services in terms of reporting. And so what that means is oftentimes we're kind of just sitting in this meeting. We're okay taking it when it's red, when it's yellow for, or black 3 weeks in a row or so, right? We need to fix the reporting. We should be looking at not only organic traffic, but how much pipeline are we driving from organic at the end of the day, right? I hate to come, 15 minutes into this meeting on a Monday heavy-handed, but we got to get it going here, right? We're supposed to be kind of the example for other people, but we're not doing a good job here. So go ahead.
All right, so December 10th, it's the afternoon right now. So there is some footage of me in the morning having to be tough on the team. We're doing a internal marketing meeting. And what happens sometimes is if you're running a company, you have to understand that you have to be the pusher, right? You have to be the one applying pressure. Otherwise, pressure is going to be applied to you. And what I mean by that is you're going to have to be the one pushing people, right? Because if you don't push people, what's going to happen is you're going to start to feel pressure from all other ends, right? Sales aren't happening. Lead gen is all screwed up, right? And as long as you're there applying the pressure as a founder, because usually the founders are going to apply the most pressure, you're going to be in an okay spot. And as a founder too, you have to be the one that is constantly injecting risk into the company, right? You're injecting risk, you're trying to balance costs as well, but it's the risk that you put in that helps push innovation at the end of the day. And so, you can see some of the things I said in there, and at the very end, we rated the meeting, and usually we rate the meetings at the end, 1 through 10, and 10 being best, right? And usually there's something to always improve about the meetings. And if you're not rating the meetings, then you're basically wasting time at the end of the day too. Like the worst thing is like having a bunch of people, like 7, 8 people join a meeting for an hour and you guys all waste time. And when you rate the meeting, it shows what are the gaps and what are the areas of opportunity. And so yesterday's meeting, it was not the best rating in the world. We're talking, 6 out of 10s across the board, right? But, people gave me feedback afterwards and said, the heat was necessary coming from me. It's uncomfortable, but they didn't say I was really rude or anything like that. So I think it's really important that you're firm, but you're also kind about it and respectful about it. So that's what I would say. I think the second thing that's worth talking about is I talked about how Carrot is pulling us as a product right now. And the interesting thing is you got people that are asking for the product, but they're also asking for services too, right? So today there's a enterprise level company coming in and they're spending $400,000 a month on LinkedIn, which is pretty good just for LinkedIn ads. And at the same time, they're asking about the agency too. And so, I have a friend's software company. They basically drive, let's just say they drive like $20 million a year in agency revenue just coming from the software, because a lot of people are using the software, right? So I think it's something figuring out how you can marry the two. And software is a very good lead magnet. It's a very good offer. And so we're actually prioritizing from a marketing standpoint, how do you focus on product marketing first? And then that will help drive the agency revenue. And we'll see how that goes. But so far, like I mentioned earlier, when you have a product that's pulling you, you just go with it, right? Instead of trying to, go into other channels where you're trying to push all the time. So if you have something that's working, that's pulling you, then, you think about doubling down, tripling down on it. And that's kind of where we stand with it right now. And this is like December 10th. People are winding down for the holidays, and I would say I'm busier than I've been in a while in December compared to the last few years, and that's a good thing, right? And we're just taking a lot of phone calls right now, and we're getting, when we're doing these sales calls, they're doubling over as customer development calls, right? And what that means is that we're able to learn from the customers on what type of features, what types of products or features that they want. For example, some people are looking for, features where we can target other channels aside from LinkedIn, and that's good feedback for us. I'm going to turn the other way, actually. And so, to be able to learn on these calls, and these are very efficient calls. These are 15-minute calls where I ask a couple questions about their business, and then we flip over to a demo. They ask some questions about the demo, about the product, and then we kind of go through next steps, right? And a nice way to make sure that there's some skin in the game when you're selling software is to just run paid pilots, right? Don't just give them a free trial. Get them to put some skin in the game, and especially these are larger companies. We said, hey, here's a pilot for a couple $1,000s for 30 days or so. We're going to work with you. We're going to add you into a shared Slack instance, and we're going to help grow with you, and we're going to build in the features that you're interested in, and that way it's like white glove service, right? And you can retain people for longer doing that, especially when you're trying to figure out your go-to-market motion with products. So that's what I would say. I'd say the last couple of days, it's like I go to sleep exhausted, right? And that's good. It's a good exhausted. And I feel like, we're having a lot of fun right now. I think the team's in a really good place overall. And people are excited about 2025. And, that's a good thing, right? When you can be excited about going into work and the people are excited about going into work, that's what you want to create. And the final thing I'll leave you with, at least for this session over here, is you got to have an unreasonably high talent bar, right? Or outrageously high talent bar. Because the line I used on Twitter today was, a low-performing hire is far more expensive, far more costly than to just leave the seat open, right? So when you have a low-performing individual, it's going to damage the culture. And you don't want to have that. You got to keep the talent bar high, and you have to keep repeating that over and over. And you hear from founders time and time again that they wish they would have stayed involved with hiring just longer and longer than they have originally. So, food for thought.
Okay, so recap for today. Just came back from podcasting with Neil, and it's been a busy last couple of weeks. So this year has been great. I mean, this is the 2024 was the year that we grew the fastest. Now we're in December of 2024, but it's actually picked up even more in Q4. So November, even though we're a fully remote team or remote first team, we got an office in LA, and we're moving really fast on that side. With Sean joining the team, that's been great. We're just iterating very quickly on the product. We're doing a lot of customer development. And so my days really consist of operating single grain and doing a lot of customer discovery for the Carrot side of things, right? And that's our ABM software. And so it's basically growing a startup and then at the same time growing a company that's working, but the two kind of play into each other, right? Because people that need Carrot, a lot of them are going to need managed services. They're going to need help with other services to grow to just accelerate their marketing at the end of the day. And so that's exciting for us to be focused and to have something that's pulling us, to have a product that is pulling us. And that's a phrase that I've been using quite a bit, at least in today's video. And other than that, I mean, I think about today's meetings overall. Okay, on one end, I'm talking about the Agency Owners Association, which is our community for agency owners, right? Well, why do we have that? One, to help agency owners grow, but two, it's really to figure out who we can partner with and who we can acquire eventually. So that does feed into single grain, right? Carrot, the software does feed into single grain because, it's a paid ads tool, and then we have a paid ads team, right? And there's other services that we have too that people that need marketing are a lot of them are going to need. Okay, and then I do the podcast, right? So the podcast marketing school that's related to marketing, leveling up is much more tied to business and marketing now. It's more so me teaching stuff and trying to teach more long form stuff. So there's a lot there, and when I think about my day, just going back to how the day started, it's I sat in a people team meeting for about an hour or so, right? We're talking about recruiting, we're talking about processes that we want to fix on the recruiting side, the people side, and we actually our head of ops, Elizabeth, put together a document showing how long it takes us to move on from people that are poor performers. And the average right now is not great. It's about 6 months or so, which is the average. But now that we have that metric defined, we're going to be able to move on a lot faster. Now, I would say the last couple months or so, when we've identified poor performers, we're identifying them basically in the first month or so. So that's a lot faster than before, and we're letting them know very quickly. And I think that's what it's going to take to build, for anybody to build a successful company, right, for the long term. And, just to say that 6 months is if you can cut it down to 3 months to move on from someone, that means that you're gonna move 3 months faster to getting the right person in the right seat. You're gonna accelerate your entire cycle time for your entire company, because it's all about people at the end of the day. And if you have competent people doing good work, then that good work is gonna help you get more customers. It's gonna help you grow more. And so that was really interesting. I don't think enough people do that, and I think that's, to me, it's a novel thing, because talent is everything. It's the people that make up your business, and I don't care what business you're in, right? It just comes down to people at the end of the day. And okay, so on one part, I'm sitting in a one-on-one meeting guiding how we should be growing our community, the agency owners community. On one end, I'm talking about the people side, and on the other end, I'm doing customer discovery for our SaaS product, Carrot. And on the other end, I'm trying to rejigger how we're prioritizing in terms of different direct reports, right? And then I have to context switch over into recording for marketing school, and I have to come up with the different topics as well. And am I complaining? No, I'm not complaining. It's one, it's fun. Two, I understand it's a tax that I have to pay. Three, it's not always going to be fun, right? You're lucky if you can have it be fun even 50% of the time. And even recording this vlog right now, it takes up time and energy, but I think it's fun too. And I think if somebody can learn from this in the future, it's going to be great. I don't think enough people document what it is that they're doing. And hopefully you're enjoying this format, because this allows me to tell the story about the day. And there's just a lot of cool things that I think I get to work on that I don't get to talk about. I even had a talk today with someone from our analytics team. And, I do these check-ins with people just to see how people are doing. And one of the questions I ask is, hey, what is your number one most impactful thing that you think we can do as a company right now? And then they'll think about it, and they'll give me their idea. And oftentimes they're really good ideas and things that I often wouldn't think about, and I just want to know about. And then I would ask, what is the stupidest thing that you think we're doing right now? And then I'll get an answer. And then by the way, sometimes I'll get the same answers about the same thing over and over. And that's when you have signal. There's signal versus noise. If you just hear it once, maybe it's not that much of a signal. But if you hear it enough and it resonates with you, that's when you should probably do something about it, because it also shows to your team that you're listening to what they are saying. And not only are you listening, you're actually taking action, and they'll respect you a lot more for that. And so, and by the way, like, all these things that I'm talking about doing right now, a lot of these things are, if you're a CEO founder, like I mentioned this morning, you're increasing the temperature, and you're injecting risk into the company, and you're juggling a lot of different things at the same time, right? You're very much a visionary, but also as a CEO, you're supposed to manage you have to balance finances, you have to balance risk as well. You're managing the P&L, you're managing people problems too. So I very much do agree with the concept that founder should be its separate role. CEO should be its own role, right? CEO is one that is trying to make sure things are more stabilized. CEO is more of a stabilizer. Founders are, they're kind of at odds with each other at the end of the day, right? And I think, by the way, even if you're a founder, you might say CEO is not your job, but I do believe it's your job to stay involved in some way, shape, or form. I haven't seen many instances where someone just goes off into the sunset and they're just chairman, and they're just hanging out on the beach all the time and working on something completely new. It's the ones that stay involved. Those are the ones that see the best returns at the end of the day for their business. I think what I'll close it off with is, Neil and I were recording marketing school today for about 80 minutes or so, and the two things that I think are most important, and I don't know if I said this today, are focus and managing your costs, right? If you can focus and if you can stay locked in on one business, and if you can manage your costs, which I would say focus I really sucked at early in my career, and then I think I'm a lot better at focus now. And then managing costs, I mean, something that we're going to turn our attention much more towards in 2025. no matter what, I think over time, if you continue to learn, you focus, you manage your costs, I think you're going to reach outsized success, even more success than you would have ever dreamed of at the end of the day. If you're an agency owner and you want to grow faster, check out the Agency Owners Association that's hosted by my podcast co-hosts, Neil Patel and myself. And we have other agency owners that are doing 8 figures a year. They were doing 9 figures a year. They sold their business for hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're going to share their experiences with you. There's a whole host of other benefits. And the cool thing is that there's a 7-day free trial, and you should check it out now because we're going to take the prices up. So just go to marketingschool.io/agency to learn more, and we'll see you inside.
All right, guys. December 12th in the morning. Yesterday, so I recorded a bunch of things to check out. I was with my forum yesterday, the YPO forum. The takeaway, the thing that I've always said over time is peer groups are worth their weight in gold. And I remember when I was 25 years old or so, I called up an entrepreneur randomly, and I didn't know if I wanted to do entrepreneurship. It just felt like the right thing, but I called up this guy, Dave Kirpin, who had a social media agency at the time. And he actually took the call with me, which I thought was amazing because he didn't know who, I had nothing to offer him, and he took the call with me. And I asked him, what's the biggest thing that changed his life as an entrepreneur? And he said that he joined this group called EO, which is Entrepreneurs Organization. And I'm like, what's EO? And he's like, well, EO is it's like your peer group of other entrepreneurs, like-minded people, and it's almost like group therapy. And so I was like, okay, what are the requirements to join EO? And he's like, well, you got to do at least $1 million. I was like, oh my God, $1 million? How am I going to do $1 million? Right? I was still working for a company at the time, and actually, at that point, I made it my goal to join EO. And 2 years later, I joined EO. I got very lucky in doing so because I joined Single Grain. Eventually, I took over the company, but at the time, I was only the number 2 at the company. But then I joined EO when I was 27 years old, and I was learning from people way ahead of me in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s or so. Some people were doing hundreds of millions a year in revenue. Other people were just way ahead, and people in the group would pull me aside and say, hey, Eric, you need to take a look at these cash flow forecasts, like these 8-week cash flow forecasts. It's something I look at all the time. I'm like, what is that, right? Ultimately, you don't know what you don't know. And a lot of people in these groups will help you. And it's your group of brothers and sisters that you meet with once a month, and then you'll even do these really cool retreats as well. And so yesterday, we had a meeting with YPO, which is another group, and it was like 8 of us. And I recorded some of the footage. I could see like one person presenting yesterday, he had a light bulb moment. And, let's just say he learned the importance of distribution and owning your distribution. That's what it is. And it was fun. I mean, we basically, let me break it down to you a little more because I think we'll focus today's theme on peer groups. But, my hand's getting a little tired here. I'll move over here. But, so you basically meet once a month, and then you do these 7-hour meetings where you talk about your biggest wins, you talk about your biggest losses. We all do like a 5-minute update every month. Talk about the best thing that happened in work, best thing that happened personally, best thing that happened in your life, and then what you like to present on next month, right? And you can do this. Like, I would recommend, even if you don't qualify to join any of these peer groups, you can make your own peer group. And I started mine when I started another peer group of marketers when I was like maybe 24 years old or so. And, all we had was a half-eaten bag of chips, and we met at my place. And still, the conversations were very high quality. And it just comes down to the people that you put together. It's all about people at the end of the day, right? So it's got to be like-minded people. And like in that case, it was all marketing leaders, right? These other groups, like for example, in our YPO group, one person's the CEO of the biggest avocado company I believe, in the world. And then, we have a beauty, it's called a beauty line owner. And then one guy owns call it like a lighting company, but they light up like EDC or like all these big events, right? So everyone does something that's interesting. So again, you meet like-minded people, and then the cool thing is you learn from everyone. Everyone shares their experiences. You're not supposed to give advice. You go on retreat. So we're going on a retreat to Cabo this year. And what's funny enough is I have another group that's similar with some other YPO, EO people. And we've been meeting since 2018. And we call that group the Illuminati. And we're going to Playa del Carmen next year. And so, do we go and have fun? Yeah, absolutely, we go and have fun. But we try to share the latest things that we can't share in public, we don't share with other people. And so even though I create all this content, there's a lot of stuff I can't share, right? So I would say peer groups worth their weight in gold. They're going to move you a lot faster because you learn from the wisdom of the group, and that means you don't have to go through all the same mistakes yourself. And ultimately what that means is your business grows faster. You grow faster as a person. And the cool thing about these groups too, especially with YPO, is that they involve your spouses, they involve your family, right? They make it a priority to do so. And again, you don't need to, have the qualifications to join this group out the gate. You can make your own. Just find people that are maybe 1 or 2 steps ahead of you. And the good news is because you're the connector, people will remember you. And that's really a big piece of how I built my network. I get asked quite a bit. I remember Ali Abdal asked me this on his podcast. He's like, how did you build your network? And the one thing I can be really proud of with my network is it's all really good people, all curated people. And and it's a lot of people I can say I love, right? And it's because I try to be useful, I try to connect people, I try to be the connector, and then people remember that at the end of the day. So I'll pause for this section over here. Hope you found it helpful, and I'll be back.
All right, so I wanted to take a second to tell you about my ad agency, Single Grain. We're a performance digital marketing agency, and we focus primarily on working with B2B companies and e-commerce. So performance marketing, that's SEO, that's paid media, that's CRO, that's ad creative. And there are a whole host of other things that we're doing with AI. That's really cool. You can go to singlegrain.com to learn more. Again, it's singlegrain.com to learn more, and we'll see you on the other side.
All right, so we're going to close out December 12th, and this is the evening cap. And one of the key takeaways I would say for today was a very strategy focused day. And sometimes you're going to have days where you're just focused on executing. You're just getting things done all day, right? But in this case, today was a lot of memo reading, a lot of memo writing. So we used the Amazon format of memo writing. And I highly encourage everyone to check out there's a couple of talks with Jeff Bezos where he talks about how they go about memo writing. And there's actually a Lex Friedman clip. If you watch his podcast, check that one out. And the beauty of writing memos is that it forces other people they have to do, the onus of the work is on them. The onus of the thinking is on them. So people can't come to you with half-baked ideas and just throw them out there, right? They actually have to think through the ideas that they have. And they have to write them out, right? And usually with Amazon, it's a 6-page memo. And for us, we're actually talking about having more detailed memos, and they're more thought through, right? And then the cool thing about the memo is once you have it written, then you bring it in front of everyone. Everyone reads it together, and then people leave comments in the margins, and then people have a quick discussion, and everyone kind of just goes down from the most junior people, starting with the most junior person, all the way to the most senior person. And then what happens with that, is then you have a great discussion, and it's more thought through discussion, and the discussion itself is supposed to be messy, right? And it's been really helpful for us, doing this, and this process has been really beneficial. And there's actually a great book I recommend checking out as well called Working Backwards from Jeff Bezos. And so that's what today was. Today was I wrote a memo, I read a memo, I collaborated on a 90-day marketing plan. There's one in terms of integrating our SaaS with our agency, just a couple of things like that, right? And then also talking about the 90-day product roadmap for Carrot. And so there's a lot of planning. I mean, we're getting towards the end of the year now, and we're going hard into the end of the year, into the holidays. So we got one more week left, and we're going to go hard. I'm probably still going to be working, during the holidays. I'm definitely going to see my family and everything, and take a little break as well. But I get the most joy out of working, and I think maybe the one thing that's worth showing you as well is that I'm pulling up my Aura metrics, and I don't think I've actually talked about this that much, but if I look at my metrics in terms of my stress, okay, so today I would say I worked pretty hard, and my daytime stress today, if you can see it, is maybe only 1 hour or so, right? So the highest point on the graph over there on the y-axis is stressed, right? I wasn't really stressed. I mean, where I was most stressed was when I was working out today, and that was around like 5:30 a.m. or so, and now it's 7 p.m. Now, what I want to show you is, let's use Thanksgiving break as an example, right? So Thanksgiving, there's a couple days where I just chilled, and my God, let's use this Friday, for example. Check out this Friday. This Friday over here, if you can't see it, shows 5 hours and 30 minutes of stress. And you would think that if you're just sitting at home chilling, that's relaxing. But it actually isn't, because your mind starts to your thoughts start to occupy your mind, and you start to get anxiety, right? Look at this. Saturday, 4 hours and 30 minutes of stress, right? And I was mostly just chilling, right? I wanted to try to, oh my God, Sunday, check this out. Sunday, 7 hours of stress over here, right? Again, I don't know if you can see it, but that's just how it is, right? So I think it just depends on how you're wired too. But for me, I get more joy out of doing things, out of being active. And by the way, those days I was at the gym every single day, right? Whether it's on the Peloton or heading to the gym. But, just keep that part in mind. I mean, your numbers don't lie, right? Your heart rate starts to go up. You start to get really stressed. And I think that says a lot. So be productive or being useless is actually stressful, right? Being productive is actually not stressful. And so going back to the strategy day, so that was great. I would say one more thing about strategy. So strategy is actually, tactics are doing things, right? Strategy is about thinking about the things to do, if I were to oversimplify it. And so we got on a call today for Carrot, and one guy showed up to the call, and his strategy was to reposition it to try to acquire my agency, right? And I thought that was pretty distasteful. He showed up 4 minutes late to the call, and he didn't position it as, hey, tell me about the agency, blah blah blah. And I thought it was pretty distasteful. And I kind of knew, I don't know this guy, but I had a sense. I'm like, I bet you he might try to position it for an acquisition thing. And we're just not interested at the end of the day, because, we think we have a long runway to go. And, when you have to listen to the signals. You have to listen to your gut feeling, right? When a guy shows up 4 minutes late, and then he's pretty rude during the demo as well. Oh, yeah, I know. And he's pretty dismissive, right? And then he acts like he's a know-it-all. And then he repositions the call, and then you check the Glassdoor for his company, and it's like, it's not good. And Glassdoor isn't the end all be all, but then he has a 57% approval rate as a CEO. And if you're watching this, hello. I wouldn't want to work with that guy to begin with, right? And so why would I ever entertain a conversation like that? That's just not how you approach a conversation. And so, that strategy, that was a strategic blunder on his side, I would say. And then there's actually another strategic blunder maybe I want to talk about maybe in 2025 or so, or maybe in 2026. I don't want to talk about it right now. I want to let the next 12 months play out. But, oftentimes you have to slow down to speed up, going back to strategy, how we're planning for the new year, right? And if you slow down a little bit, you're going to be able to make better decisions because you've thought through what you want to do for next year. And a lot of people don't think about these things, right? They just kind of go, shoot from the hip type of thing, and that's it. And so I've communicated this quite a bit in these vlogs, but I'm very excited for 2025. And in fact, I'm pretty excited for the next decade, right? I think, all the way up to 2034 or so, I think the world's waking up. I think things are going to get better. I think we're going to see more production from society. I think we're going to see less government overreach and less regulation. And we're going to see some really cool things being produced in the next 10 years or so. So I'm very optimistic about where things are going. And I would say those of you that are, that have started something, just keep going. Go for a long time, 10 plus years or so. And then I think if you're just starting out, also just keep going, right? It takes decades to build something generational. So that being said, have a good night.